Glue Wednesday. You see, it's my belief that we don't have to get over. We need to find ways to keep it together. And my glue is G.L.U.E. God's love undoes everything, because that's what keeps it together. That life is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of each puzzle in your family, social, or business relationships. Yet, no matter what size puzzle piece you think you are, without you, the puzzle is labeled as incomplete. Hi, I'm Sporty King, and welcome to Glue Wednesday. I named it so because so often people think of Wednesday as hump day. And I believe that hump has a connotation of the need to get over, when in fact, what we need to do is find ways to keep it together. And Wednesday is technically the middle day of a 7-day traditional week. It keeps the beginning of the week and the weekend together. So it's about keeping it together, not getting over. In fact, my glue is G.L.U.E. God's love undoes everything. There's nothing that you can or you cannot do when you have God's love inside you and around you. So that becomes the glue that you need to make sure that you keep. So what I want you to see Wednesday as okay, see, I went off my script, so now I'm going to get back on it, all right? You know how I roll, all right? Meanwhile, my topic for this broadcast is border control. And I know somebody says, wondering a lot, oh, wow, Sporty's never done anything on politics. Well, you can keep wondering. In fact, you can say it out loud that Sporty's never done anything on politics, because I'm not. See, my border is B-O-A-R-D-E-R, border control. Because the thing is, what you have to do is remind yourself to control the people that are in your first 5 rows. See, that becomes your border of your life. How do you keep the right people in your life? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. In my 24 years in the speaking business, I've never said, I know how you feel. I've been in your shoes before. Because the truth is, I only know how I feel. And I've only been able to be in my shoes, but I've been in your row because we're all going through something, and we've all been through something. And you know, I always say, choose your messengers carefully. So I've decided to turn this into a poetry slam. S-L-A-M, Sporty's Lessons About Messengers, and introduce you to some of my messengers across the decades through my poetry. The people I'll introduce you to represent important aspects of my life. They're positive and negative role models that contribute to my big picture. They're people who've helped me make choices, and I'm happy for each of them because they've found an inner peace that cannot be seen by the naked eye. They've made their choices with what they were given to choose from. Make yours rather than rate theirs. This first poem is called A Nautical 40 with Sporty. And it comes from my book, I Found Out I'm Dying, A Celebration of Life. A book about the fact that physically we're all dying from the day we're born. Get over it. From the minute you're born, you start the physical process of what you would hope would be your natural process of dying, rather than having to be murdered or hit by a car or shot or anything. And I said, oh my God, why are you saying these shocking things? I'm sorry, this is the world we live in. And the truth is, if you will allow, even though sometimes we say our children have become desensitized to death and gun violence and gang violence, what we have to also recognize is that sometimes our children freeze when we say certain things or they hear or see certain things, and that moment of being frozen could make the difference in their life. So, you know, it's a tough decision, and one thing I always do is support parents and advocate for them as well as children, but you got to recognize that sometimes the things that our children are going through, you got to decide what age is childish, because sometimes we'll say, well, you know, you're 13, you should know better by now. Where does it say what you should know at 13? Something that you learned at 23, something you learned at 33, something you learned the moment your child did it. So again, parents, I support you, but recognize that our children are not as desensitized as we think they are. We just have to make sure we define desensitization, and if I said it wrong, then I hope you can spell it right. Okay? So this first poem is called A Nautical 40 with Sporty. And it was written to celebrate the 40th anniversary of my birth, which is a term that I stole from my #1 messenger, my mother, to describe people's birthdays. We always say a birth date. She said you have one birth date and everything else is the anniversary of that date. So we don't actually, I never actually say happy birthday. I'll set it up by reading you the copy from the invitation to my party. You see, I wanted to have my party on a ship. I wanted to have it on a cruise, but I couldn't afford it. So I gave my cruise indoors at a place called the Red Onion. And here's the invitation, then followed by the poem. Hey you, get out your white and blue, because this ship's not coming in black. It's coming in with excitement. It's coming in with flair. It's a pre-birthday indoor cruise to dock my 40th year. The mariner is the Red Onion, not exactly your maritime name. Docked at 537 South Dearborn, Thursday, 8/17. Believe me, you'll be glad that you came. Boarding time is 5:30 p.m. The destination is up to you. Feel free to come and leave early or stay until we're through. Of course, I'll read a poem or two if I'm still standing at 8, but the buffet starts immediately, and it could be gone if you're late. A Nautical 40 with Sporty. My ship came in long ago. In fact, it's been docked for years. Its base is born of ivory, diamonds, oak, and tears. See, I've already been a little black boy, colored, a Negro, a slave, a white boy, an Indian, a Baptist, a Jew. See, I've been and done damn near everything. I've been me, and at times I've been you. My testimony of strength says I gave more than I took. I'm the original 10, the first flim-flam man, the ruler, the champ, the cook. I was once the solution, then the problem. Now the solution again. I've had more mixed signals than a salad. But if you could hear my heart sing, there'd be no malice in its tone. All you'd hear is the chirp of a ballad. For not only has my ship docked, my spirit has come to rest. It lies peacefully here among you because you are the best. The best women, the best men, the best crew. Did I mention my ship, white and blue? See, I'm still doing my time on Earth. Looks to me like you're doing yours too. I thank God regularly for my time and all the things He's put me through. Your ship came in long ago, like mine, and it's been docked for years too. Please enjoy your ship as I enjoy mine, for my ship cannot sail without you. Now, white and blue, why was my party in white and blue? Because I've been a Dallas Cowboy fan since I was 8 years old. Particularly and partially because I was always Bob Hayes when I played football. See, when we played football, when you played any game around the block, my birth name is Sporty. Nobody wanted to try to worry about getting, hooked on phonics to pick somebody to play on the team and figure out how to say Sporty. So my nickname was Sports Car because I ran fast. When we played sports, you were never allowed to be yourself. You had to pick your favorite player, and that's who you was. So I was Bob Hayes. At the time, he was known as the world's fastest human because he had won the Olympics, the 100-yard dash. So that's why one of the reasons I became a Dallas Cowboy fan, because whenever I played football, I was Bob Hayes. But also, I was a Dallas Cowboy fan because of Tom Landry. And his commitment to excellence was one of my messengers. I loved his cool, calm, and collected way of believing in his team and in himself. He was a great man of faith. An offshoot of that belief in his cool, calm, and collectedness is a little-known fact that the first trophy I ever won was in basketball for sportsmanship. At around age 10 or 11, during a 3-man tournament at Stone Gym Youth Center. Hey to my New York family. It was the second tallest of the trophies. The MVP trophy was the tallest, and the guy who won MVP, I'll give a shout out to my boy Rob Lilly, because he actually is the person who taught me how to play basketball. And then I ended up playing on the team with them as well as playing in a 3-man tournament. Now, the way the teams were set up, they had a good person, a medium person, and a person that wasn't so good on the 3-man team, and then one person on the bench who also wasn't so good. I was that medium person on my original team, but our good person had an attitude problem, and he quit. So I now moved up from being the medium person to the top person on the team. And I think we had like 6 or 8 teams. Naturally, we finished in last. But the thing is, I never complained. I continued to play and played hard. And so that's why I ended up winning the sportsmanship trophy. And that just has kind of been who I am for throughout my life. So speaking of choices, And you know, in making that choice to not complain or give up, it reminds me that we all have and we make choices in our life. And again, we're talking about border security, border control, the choices we make of the people who we have in our lives. So one choice I made was in 1994. I was riding around on a Saturday morning, getting ready to take some kids from the Boys and Girls Club on a field trip in Chicago. While I rode around, I took my friend Dwayne Walker, who was hanging out with me. He had never been on the south side of Chicago. Well, it was actually the west side of Chicago. So I was giving him a tour of the neighborhood. And what we noticed was how people were waking up in the neighborhood. And because of my background of having worked on Wall Street, I got the inspiration to write about the contrast in people waking up in the neighborhood. So I call this the ghetto executive. Hustling, bustling early in the morning, carrying brown attaché in the low-rise district. An attaché made out of brown paper rather than cowhide. Scraped elbows replace skyscrapers as another exec pulls out of the unzippered garage and gets going. Hustling, bustling early in the morning, making a deal with the devil and calling him God. Lord, good morning, let me have this liquor. While you worry about amaretto or Kahlua flavor in your coffee. And as he settles down, laptop in hand, the inspirational log-on appears again. Johnny Walker Red. The ghetto executive throws his head back and laughs. Yeah, I used to read too. Look where it got me. Hustling, bustling. Early in the morning. In wheelchairs, on corners, and sometimes on canes. Sometimes that cane is cocaine. And the blue-collar worker becomes a white-collared slave. Picking cotton balls off of yesterday's outfit to give it that fresh today look. An arrogant head on high replaced by an ignorant head so high. Market share replaced by make-em share. Memorandums become methadone. Faxes turn to fixes. Coffee breaks, carefree breaks. Stock tips, snot lips. Wall Street Journal, walls beat urinals. Brokers, no, just broke. Hustling, bustling, early in the morning, and getting nowhere fast. The ghetto executive is so worn out by 10 o'clock a.m., he decides to put the do not disturb sign in his pocket and goes to sleep on his desk stoop and decides to work the night shift. And you see, the danger of this poem is the possibility of sounding judgmental. One of my prayers every day is that I could become less judgmental because I know I'll never make it to being non-judgmental. We all have that little pinch of judgmental in us. So please hear it as it's written as a blessing of choices made while not knowing what choices others have or don't have. One choice I had was to actually not work at the Wall Street Journal. See, when I first started the Journal, I was being interviewed to be hired as a messenger. Now, I could have easily said, well, no, I'm not going to be a messenger. I got some college, and then not have taken that interview or gotten that job. But since I did, what ended up happening is over an 18-year period, I had 7 job promotions and 8 job titles. And when I retired from the Wall Street Journal, I was an advertising sales manager. After doing 6 years as a regional advertising sales manager, I left the Journal in 1994 and started my motivational speaking business. So now I'm back at being a messenger. On my wall in my house, I have one of my scriptural quotes to keep my day going. It's 1 Peter 4:11. And not the whole scripture, but it says, if you've been called to be a speaker, speak as if God himself is speaking through you. Then he will be given praise and glory through Jesus Christ. And as I read that every morning, I remind myself, as you should remind yourself, I'm reminding myself to be the best speaker that I could be. You have to remind yourself to be the best you. See, when I started my speaking business, one of the things I said I wanted to do, I wanted to be the Muhammad Ali of motivational speaking. You know what I found out? He was the Sporty king of boxing. And so what you have to find out is who's the you of you. Because there's no one greater at being you than yourself. The only time you'll fail is when you try to be someone else. But every time you succeed, it's because you lock in and be yourself. Start to listen to how they interview some of these some of these athletes after the game. And you hear them say, well, you know, what happened was we got back to playing our game. And that's how we won. See, when you can get someone out of their game, you can beat them. And if someone can get you out of your game, knock you off your square, push you out of your lane, they can beat you. But when you are being who you are, you can't be beat. And so it's always important for us to remember to get back to playing our game. Because winning is personal. W-I-N, what I need. As each one of us understands what our personal win is, we become a more valuable member of every team we find ourselves on. In fact, I'll give you a good example. Remember the Chicago Bulls had a dynasty for 6 years. Right? Well, I don't know if it's 6 years in a row, whatever it was. I was living in Chicago. But a win for Dennis Rodman was not how many points he scored. It was how many rebounds he got. A win for Michael Jordan was not the rebounds, but the points. And then he took it to another level, how many steals he got, how many stopped his opponent from getting, how many assists he got. As each member of the Bulls understood their personal win, that's when they put together the dynasty. And so as you understand your personal win, you can have a dynasty in your business, your family, your school, any type of life that you are involved in, your organization, your fraternity, your sorority, anything that you're involved with. When you take care of your personal win, you will put together a dynasty. And what does that require that you do? Border control. Control the people who are in your circle and in your first 5 rows. So as we close out Black History Month, this Black History Month celebration, one of my biggest heroes is not an American. It's actually Nelson Mandela. And I wrote this poem in 1994 as he became president of South Africa after being released from prison in 1990. Now last week my topic was patience of patience. Imagine the patience that Nelson Mandela had to be in prison for 27 years and still come out with a positive attitude. So this poem is called Moments of Violence. As I ponder my congratulations to Nelson Mandela, I drift more toward his plight. Forgive me if I rhyme, but total equality won't happen overnight. Please stay with me even as I pause and embrace the spirit that celebrates the cause. Through the history and slavery so associated with apartheid, smiles and words of love now fill the lives of those who cried. Some cried for freedom, some for death. Many were rewarded with pain. Staring across the horizon, they recount that suffering, rejoice, and prepare to reap its gain. As I subtract 27 years from my life, I stand naive with a bright future and can't help but see that vision so bright. Of a world full of people and places and things where the color of your skin didn't make you right. As I add 27 years to my lifetime, I foretell of the knowledge I'll have earned. And I pray that my vision materializes into a world where mankind has learned. As I ponder my congratulations to white South Africa, I welcome the closure of that book. I applaud Mother Africa's new freedom, and in moments of silence, what it took. Nelson Mandela was a warrior of silence. We, obviously here in America, we like to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King being that way, we turn the other cheek. But let's not forget that history, to me, is his story, and God's history is all around the world. So Mandela was one of my main messengers. So my final favorite messenger is always the bright, sparkling eyes of young people. Words are powerful. Think about the impact of those little moments of frustration you may have had that turn your transferring your feelings on to our kids. This poem is called Denying Our Seed. These kids of today won't make it. Denying our seed. These kids of today have no respect. Denying your seed. These kids of today have no manners. Denying her seed. They have no regard for life, denying his seed. They don't know how good they've got it, denying our seed. You see, I've lied, taken chances, tried to be an adult when I was supposed to be more responsible based on what I was told I should know by now, recognizing your seed. I've tried to get in a club underage, played hooky, house, doctor, and nurse. Had to have messages repeated to me until I got it, and I didn't get it until I heard it for the first time from my messenger, recognizing her seed. And I played Spin the Bottle and RCK, also known as RCF, with the right group. Hide and Go Field, Cops and Robbers, Cowboys and Cowboys, never wanting to be the Indians. And oh my God, I've been overheard using foul language, recognizing our seed. I'm a descendant of a culture that was connected to some sort of enslavement, Holocaust, ignorance, revolution, prejudice, violence, pornography, substance and spousal abuse, discrimination, molestation, and my age group was also the first to experience peer pressure. I remember being rewarded for being stubborn, justifying my character development. Okay, I really don't remember that. But I remember having my normal actions questioned. And I remember wondering how I was ever going to make it when no one understood me. What could I do to prove myself? Did people like me? What was the latest style? Was it for me? Irrelevant. Recognizing his seed. I remember no growing in its intensity. Stop. Wait. Listen, my name, my full name. I've managed to forget how I wondered what would happen if, when, after I tried to do certain things, my mother would react, my father, grandfather, grandparent, brother, sister, friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, peers, teacher, boss, even how my children would react. I've managed to forget risque, seductive, suggestive words and songs and wanting to get it on or get down tonight by sexing somebody, anybody, everybody up, expecting no romance without finance. Since bad and nasty girls weren't worried about doing it to death all night long with somebody else's guy who wasn't wondering who was making love to his old lady while he was out making love. Because as thin as the line was between love and hate, it was clear that Papa was a rolling stone who didn't take no mess. And like Parliament, you could bet your bottom dollar that he would funk you up whenever he felt that funky sensation. And it didn't matter if you knew how to shake your moneymaker or your booty until your love came down from your riding the white horse in hot pants or high heel sneakers. If you didn't realize that it takes a fool to learn to love the one you're with and do it till you're satisfied. How have you forgotten how we would tear the roof off the sucker or chase the cat like the dog in me, looking for some sexual healing? Oh yes, I believe that if you would let me make love to you, I wouldn't stop till you asked me to, told me to, begged me to. Get funky with me, you're Mr. Big Stuff at Lady Marmalade's house. Voulez-vous? How do you like your love? And I only ask because I have to be sure you know that you can't hit and run now that you know I love to love you, baby. So stay in my corner. Let me rub you down with some burning hot oil and take you higher. Come on, sexy mama, you got to give it up before I let go. Yes, I remember changing some of those lyrics and laughing that they'd never use those words, do you? See, I've even managed to forget John 8:7. Let he who is without sin. I'm throwing stones like they're going out of style. Yet maybe you never had the urge to, never flirted, never talked dirty, fantasized, fondled, or faked. Peer pressure has gone away since you've managed to keep up with the Joneses, while in your political correctness, you still read the cue cards that say you can be anything you want to be. And waking up and making it through another day free from your addiction, yet not free from the flashback these kids of today give you. And as the stop sign now looks red to you, you lash out where you could reach out to offer guidance. You give up where you could give hope through your patience. You retreat where you could repeat the lessons, applications, and realities. I'm going to try to remember not to deny my seed when I can recognize it. These kids of today will make it because and sometimes in spite of the fact that they're related to the kids of yesterday. In spite of the fact that they're related to the kids of yesterday who weren't supposed to make it, then maybe they'll wonder how those kids of tomorrow will make it. You see, there's no stopping us now. But it's time for me to stop my broadcast and thank you once again for joining me on G.L.U.E Wednesday. Remember, my name is Sporty King. You can reach me at sportyking.com, but you can see me every week. Choose your messengers carefully. And remember that border control is something that we're all in charge of. Thank you. God bless you.